Hey guys, it's Ethan from Zimmer Labs, and I am going to do a video today of this Inception Elite Roman Props Proffieboard Neopixel saber that I just finished up for Kevin. This is actually part 2 of the video, but you guys probably will never see part 1. Reason being because I had to totally rebuild this guy. It was initially built and finished, and I was not happy with how it came out at all, so I wanted to go back and just make some changes because the swing sensor, the clash sensor, everything was just a little bit out of whack and it wasn't performing right. So hopefully this video will be better and it will perform much better this time. But I think it will. I'm definitely just tested it a little bit beforehand and it seems to be really a lot better. At any rate, this is definitely one of my favorite hilts. I think I've probably said that before, but the fit and finish and just overall quality of this hilt is basically second to none. You guys who have Roman props lightsabers, you guys already know that. But this guy, when Roman does sabers, he does them right. He charges a bit more than some other people do, but that's because the quality you're getting is impeccable. This is the elite version of the hilt, which means that all the silver pieces are chrome instead of just a finished aluminum. All the chrome pieces, Roman has them shipped out to have them individually hand done, and then he personally checks them before assembling each one to make sure that they're really, really well done, and if they're not, he sends them back to be redone. Which is why these actually take a bit of time to get, usually. And unfortunately, it seems that he may be done with doing these, the elites at least, so I picked up quite a few of them in the last run to have them in stock for customers who want them, as well as for myself. So if anybody needs one of these and can't get one, feel free to message me because I do have some extra stock. But at any rate, let's dive into this guy. This is a full masterpiece build, a nice master chassis and a Proffieboard, all the bells and whistles. To open it, you simply twist this guy and slide it down. That reveals your chassis, your recharge port, your master switch, and the speakers down here. To access the USB and SD card, you simply pop this cover off. I'm not going to do it right now because it just pops off. There's really nothing to it, but you can see right through there the USB and the reset button on the Proffieboard. Let's turn it on. That way we know it's on. You get the sound effect. You also might be able to see through here. There's Neopixels inside this part of the chassis for a color cycle. The main reason for that is because you get a really nice shine through effect down here on the pommel when that goes on. Next up, the crystal reveal section of the lightsaber is up here, and this section just slides up. And this crystal reveal specifically was done in stainless steel and rhodium with a nice 1.5 long quartz crystal in there. And then those of you guys who have one of these or have done one before may notice that this section here is a bit different now. This used to be, the kit used to be a solid rectangular piece that I used to usually do it in rhodium. But I guess when printing that piece in stainless steel, Rick Ryo from Goth 3 Designs was having a lot of problems with the quality of that part. So what he did was instead he redesigned the chassis simply to accommodate 3 or 4 millimeter tubes. So now the wires run up through the tubes and there is no rectangular chassis section anymore. Up top, this blade plug I think just looks great in it. This is actually from a Shtok Custom Works limited run of MK1 blade plugs that he did. It's not meant for this saber, but it looks nice in it. And let's fire it up, show you guys how it works. Your buttons are hidden here. Activation up top, auxiliary on the bottom. Those can be switched around if you like. A little bit of shine through going on up there through the edges around the blade plug. As I said, see if you guys can see the color cycle going on. Yeah, there we go. Should spin down. It's a lot more visible in person, but it's just a nice turbine effect going on down there. Unscrew to reveal the crystal chamber. Now this top portion actually comes right off. You don't have to worry about pulling it off because there's no wiring. Pixel connectors up top here and on the inside of the hilt here that makes the connection for the blade, which is nice for display purposes. Well, the crystal chamber is set up to mimic whatever the blade's doing, so this is obviously a bright blue blade. It's got white flash on clash, white blaster blocks, white blade lockup. Next font, Cyan. And we'll run through a couple of these, but then I'll put the blade on so you can see. Third blade is purple, a la a Mace Windu color. Bright green. Nice bright yellow. Red Vader-esque, which is Fireblade. This is one of my favorites because it just looks so good in the crystal section. It really does look like it's on fire. The crystal is illuminated by 2 pixels, one on either side. I don't know if you guys can really see the crystal that well, but I hope so. It's a nice, very nice quartz crystal in there. Alright, let's put this guy together. Throw a blade on it so you guys can see how that works. To get this blade plug out, I have put just a tiny piece of tape here. Give something to grab onto to pull it out. Obviously that is not a finished part. I just haven't really considered how I want to finish it off yet, but you need to have something to pull it out by. In there you'll see that it is a very, very shallow recessed emitter, which is the perfect, absolute perfect spot, and probably the spot that these were really invented for the Shtok Custom Works Pixel, Neopixel onboard blade connectors. Yes, that looks phenomenal. But with this guy, you really have just zero room. The connector is located and mounted right inside of the inner circle here, which is an inner, it's intended to be an inner heatsink for a Luxion installation of this lightsaber. That would be the heatsink for the main LED. And as a result of that, you really don't have any room to get a blade connector any bigger in there. And if you want to do an illuminated blade plug, like this guy, as you can see, that's all the room you've got. So if you need to cram Neopixels in there and a connector in there to get it to fit inside here, you're just not going to be able to do that. Like, I've tried, believe me, I've tried, and I've come pretty close a couple times, but it's just not really feasible. So that's why these connectors are perfect for this. To insert the blade, the way these blades on this specific hilt work, you have to have a recessed inset blade connector. It sits, as you can see, about 3/8 of an inch inside of the blade itself, which is the only way that the outer blade here can go into the space between the heatsink and the emitter, but still allowing the connector to go in there and make a connection with the blade plug. I mean, with the blade connector, sorry. Let me just lock that down so it stays. I would say the only real issue I have with this hilt, and it's not really an issue, is the retention screw on the blade here, as you can see, is tiny, tiny. And the reason for that is I think Roman just wanted to make this look as good as possible. It's a beautiful hilt. He didn't want any big glaring screw to be detracting from the overall look of it. But as a result, it's kind of a weak point, because if you are going to swing this thing around or duel or anything like that, you know, 6 months later, that little tiny screw may wear out a bit. So you probably want to beef it up by drilling, tapping, and setting a new, bigger screw in here, which would take care of the problem. Not a big deal. Alright. There's your Neopixel blade, running a blue Fireblade here. This is the Durand Fire sound font with smooth swing. Then a Coral Fire. Nice speedy blue Tron blade. This is a standard Strobe blade. Electricity blade. Jedi Seizure blade. Rainbow blade, of course. POV blade. Battery indicator blade, showing that this guy is literally 100% fully charged, which is just where you want it. Back to the beginning, so your initial blade. Nice bright blue with the white flash ignition. And I believe the opening sound font here is Sigil with smooth swing effect. Sion Blade is number 2. I think this is the Best Bin 2 sound font. Purple Blade is 3. Bright green, a la Return of the Jedi with Sentinel. That's a Sunlight Yellow. Bright red with Swarm sound font. And we're back to the first Fireblade. And then back to blue, and that's all of them. The only other thing I really wanted to show you guys here is just a couple things that you have to do to the hilt itself for the installation to go kind of smoothly and kind of have the finished product that you really are looking for. One of the nice things about this hilt is you really don't have to do a lot of modifying and customization to it, and that is good because it's such a nice hilt. You don't really want to mess with it. But a couple things to do. First of all, because everything slides up or down from this centerpiece here, it's key that the threads unscrew from here and not from here, and these threaded pieces are not attached, they're separate. So the first thing you want to do is glue the threaded section into here on both sides. That way when you go to screw and unscrew, it works the way you want it to, and you want to make sure that when you're done screwing, cover tech knob is right here where it's supposed to be. The next thing, this little screw here is like a fake transistor greeble type thing, but what this thing does, it's actually kind of an important part of the overall build here, because this locks the chassis in place. When you remove it, well, there's not a whole lot of movement going on because there's not a whole lot of room to move it in this case, but if you loosen that up, then this chassis can swing around and move around, and you don't want that. So the screw tightens and presses against here, but what I do with this one, because the screw is just not quite long enough for a firm attachment, is I drill out the center of the screw about halfway down, and then I will install a nice steel pin right in the middle of it, and then kind of round off the tip, give it a point, not a real sharp point, but just a little bit of a point. And now that is what catches the chassis and keeps everything tight. And then the other trick is to put a corresponding hole into this chassis here, not all the way through, but just a spot for this to go into, right where on the other side, right where that's going. So that way when you lock this in, this guy goes right into that hole, and that point goes right in and literally locks this guy in, so it's totally locked in, which is key. And then the other thing, two other things. This part I really can't show you guys because the brass section here is not meant to be unscrewed. If you do, you risk breaking the wires that are up inside of this section. But suffice it to say, this brass piece screws into the black grenade section, and the threads are about a ½ inch long, and that means that the threads come down to about here on the inside. And as you can see, that blade connector and threads that long, just there's not enough room for everything to fit in there. So I take the threaded section down about halfway. There's still plenty of thread to screw in tightly and make a really solid piece here, but you do have to shorten that threaded section a tiny bit. And then the heatsink here, this guy on a unmodified Inception, like this guy, as you can see, the heatsink sticks up above the emitter by, call it a 1/16 of an inch, maybe a little bit more. And in this one, it's within, down, recessed into the emitter by 1/8 of an inch or a little bit more. So you want to take off 1/4 of an inch probably, and the reason being so that when you put a blade plug in there, if you put it in this one, it's only going in that far, and so it's sticking out, and well, that looks silly. But also, no light is going to escape and illuminate the edge of the blade plug because it forms a seal between the metal of the blade plug and the metal of the heatsink. So you need a gap between here and here for light to escape so that you can actually see light illuminating around the blade plug. So that's not an absolute necessity. If you're not going to use a blade plug, or if you don't really care, then you don't have to worry about this bit. But if you want a blade plug in this guy and you want it to be illuminated, you have to do that. And I guess that's probably it. So, short and sweet video. Thank you guys again for watching. Let's see, I'll show you guys the crystal chamber up close a bit. Like I said, this is stainless steel and rhodium. So all shades of silver here, no gold or brass or copper or anything like that. Yeah, I guess that's about it. Oh, nope, I lie. One other thing to show you guys, which would be the color cycle that's rocking down here. I mean, you mostly see it through the pommel, but you can see it if your chassis is open. So let's jump back. Sorry. Yeah, there we go. So this will be green. It starts out off and then it goes from white to green. And it's just, you know, it's like a ramping power turbine going on down there. It runs in a circle all the way around, except not at the very top, but you can't actually notice that when you're looking at it through the pommel. Let's go back to the first blade, and I'll show you how it looks in blue. And hopefully you guys can catch that. Alright, and that's about it. So thanks for watching. Kevin, please let me know what you think. If you have any questions, concerns, you want to change the order of anything, add anything, subtract anything. And next video will be another short and sweet one of this guy that I finished for Matthias. And then we're going to get into the crossguard and the DL44 blaster, which I am happy to say is finished. This puppy, I'll give you just a quick taste. Yeah, it's awesome. And there's so much more going on in here, but we'll get into that in its own video in due time. So thanks, guys.